What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Gotham Season 4, Episode 12, Pieces of a Broken Mirror. So there are a lot of different things to talk about, so I'm going to hop right into it. Starting off with the Toymaker story. So we see right at the beginning of this episode, first of all, it's a great opening because we get to see everyone is all together in this one spot, but we get to see it piece by piece. So first we see Jim walking into this place, and he's asking about Harvey. Has he been here? He finds out yes he has. He's like, all right, well, give him this card, tell him to call me when he can. He leaves, and as he's walking out, these three guys walking near him walk into this building, and they find Poison Ivy being reborn. I guess is the best word to say it. She's coming back, but now she is different because of the whole change that she went through after she took all those potions. And then we see Alfred at a diner nearby. He's sitting there talking to this girl, and, well, not really. This girl's talking to these three guys in a booth, and they're asking about him, and then they talk to him, and he just kind of, shrugs them off, like, whatever, and then gives the girl a very nice tip, and then leaves as these guys go to beat the crap out of him and take his stuff, because, hey, he's rich. I want his stuff. And then we see Lee is giving a speech in a building right nearby, to all the people of the Narrows. And so we're seeing all these different little points of views, and I loved how they handled it. But ultimately, starting off with the Toymaker, we see he creates a little plane that carries a bomb towards Lee, but Butch steps in the way and knocks it out of the window, blows up the building. It's on fire. Jim and Alfred, they go and get everybody out, and then try to figure out what's going on, but of course, they don't see anything of what happened. So, Jim is trying to track down what's going on. He and Lucius go to the Toymaker's shop. His son is in there, and he's just like, hang on, let me go get him. Then the dad starts up this machine gun inside of this, giant, nutcracker, and then sends a little robot carrying a bomb to them. But they manage to get out of it okay. Then they go and try to track down who he was talking to. He was talking to somebody talking about the doc, which, of course, is Lee. Jim doesn't know that. But he goes to Barbara to ask her what was going on with that. And, of course, another great scene with Barbara. I mean, it's just so funny to me thinking about how terrible she was in the first season. How blank stares all the time. Like, yeah, Jim, I totally support you. That is my only reason for being here. That's all I'm good for. And now all of a sudden, it's like ever since she became crazy, she's just become this really great character. And now every scene that she's in, I love seeing her. And it's really funny to think that she used to be my least favorite character. Now she's probably one of my favorites. She's almost like, honestly, she's like primordial Harley Quinn. She already teamed up with Joker once before. And so just the way she acts, it makes me think of like Harley Quinn in the old days. But anyway, so she, of course, loves her little conversation. She gets the little, hints dropped about Lee, doesn't really tell Jim who the doc is, and just lets him think that the doc is a man and doesn't tell him anything about it. Just keeps, oh, that's a dangerous person. The doc is a really dangerous person. You better make sure you're ready, Jim. It's just loving every bit of it. Like, you could just tell how much she enjoys getting to talk to him. And so, of course, Jim goes down to the Narrows, finds out that the doc is paired up with Nigma, still not realizing it's Lee, and then gets in there as Nigma is introducing her in one of his typical rhymes. And then she comes down the stairs, and he's just like, oh my god, it's Lee. And then Nigma comes out to talk to him, and he's just like, what is she doing here? And he's just like, she's helping the Narrows. And one of the best lines, in this entire series so far, comes from Nigma, because Jim tells him somebody tried to kill her. It's a Toymaker and an assassin. And Nigma just laughs and goes, that is so Gotham. And it is. Toymaker / assassin. That is something that you would only see in something like Gotham. So, really funny line there. And then Lee does come up to talk to him. You can still see there's a little bit of just this chemistry between the two of them. Even though you can tell Lee, she's not really wanting to talk to him, but at the same time, you can see that she still does feel something. Now, whether those feelings are strong or if they're just kind of like little remnants of what was left between them, can't really tell. But Jim, of course, it feels like he still wants to talk to her. He still wants to be with her. And he makes it way too obvious, in my opinion. And just, he seems a little bit desperate, like, you should have called whenever you got back, Lee. And I'm just like, dude, come on, you're making yourself look pitiful. But ultimately, she's just like, whatever. Jim tells Nigma he's going to take another look around, and then Nigma sees the toy maker in the back of the place, so then he goes to chase him down, and the toy maker's just like, I've been looking for you, and I'm just like, wait, he was trying to kill Nigma? Then we come back, and he's like, I've been trying to look for you, and Nigma's like, don't kill me, please, and like, why would you try to kill Lee? He's like, well, because you hired me to. And then it sort of clicks. Nigma realizes that the Riddler came out in him again, and he hired the toy maker to go kill Lee, which makes this so much more interesting, in my opinion. And then, of course, the toy maker blows up, and then Jim comes out, shoots him, kills him, and then asks, did he tell you who hired him? He's like, no, it's a lone wolf. He just wanted to kill Lee to get her out of the picture. So, I'm not really sure where this is going to go next. One of the things that I do find very interesting is that in the past, it sort of seemed like Nigma knew whenever the Riddler was doing stuff. He knew whenever that persona in him came out and did stuff. Now it feels like he's losing chunks of time. He doesn't really remember hiring him. Of course, whenever he's told that, all of a sudden in his brain it flashes and he remembers handing him the money. But he didn't remember doing that beforehand. I find that very interesting, and it makes him a very compelling character too. Seeing that he's trying to be a good person. He's trying to be this normal person that wants to just enjoy life. We did see there was a little bit of a connection between him and Lee, and he probably has some feelings for her, which, makes sense. He formed a connection with her. She helped him, and she's beautiful. So, of course, he would feel something. And so he's just trying to be this normal person, but this side of him, this crazy side of him, keeps coming back out. And it's like he can't really control it. I'm so curious to see where they're going to go with it from here. How are they going to handle his story? Is he just going to eventually become full out the Riddler, or is he going to continue with this split personality for a little while? I don't know. But I'm really looking forward to seeing more. We also have a little bit of a side story. We see Butch actually does remember being Butch. At one point, Ed goes in there to talk to him, and he's just like, what's his name? Grundy, are you ready to fight? And he's just like, just kind of looking dumb. And then Ed leaves, and he's like, my name is Butch Gilzine. And he remembers like Penguin chopping off his hand, and he remembers being shot in the head by Barbara. So then he goes to Tabitha and sort of tells her, I remember being Butch. The only reason I came here is because I remember the feelings I had for you. And that's kind of where they leave it off. They don't really talk anymore about that. They don't talk about what he's going to do next. I assume he's probably going to stick around with Ed and Lee for now, just because I don't think he knows quite what is going on with him yet. He doesn't remember what happened to him, why he came back as that thing. So, still not really sure what's going on there. We also see Ivy pops up in this episode. Like I said, she now has the ability to control plants. And I find it very interesting that once again, completely new actress. So she's already changed actresses 3 times now. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, so she is, she's sitting there trying to figure out what's going on. What is her purpose, I suppose? Just walking around. And then she sees these dead plants and sees that everything around it is killing them. And you can start to see like the frustration with her. She goes inside because these 2 people are leaving. And she sees that they're very rich. So she goes in, takes some of their ice cream, turns on the TV, and sees that, Wayne Enterprises dumped a bunch of stuff and it's killing all these plants. You could see her getting pissed off. And then she sees the Sirens Club, which apparently they have a commercial for the Sirens Club now. I did find it very interesting because, Barbara, she can be very seductive with her voice. Tabitha can also be pretty seductive with her voice. But then they cut to Selena, and you could just tell she has no interest in being there. Because, Barbara and Tabitha are sitting there, come down to the Sirens Club. It's going to be a great time. And then it cuts to Selena. It's fun. Just no seduction in her voice at all. No, attempt to sound sexy. Just, it'll be a fun time. It fits Selena's character, too. That's what makes it even better. So, God, I love that commercial. But, of course, Ivy sees them and realizes that, oh, I know them. and I'm pretty sure I hated, talking about, I think, Barbara, I'm pretty sure I hated you. So she goes there, there's a little bit of a scuffle. We do see Selena talking to Bruce for a little bit, which was a good scene because she's talking to him and pretty much calling him out on his crap. Like, I don't believe any of this. Why would you fire Alfred? I think you're just hiding from the truth. And so kind of calls him out on it. And of course, he's drunk, so he has no idea probably what she's even saying. She's like, yeah, it's a great time. Woo! But as she's talking to him, that's when Ivy causes these two guys, I guess, to start fighting over her. And then Tabitha comes in to break it up. She's like, boys, am I right? And she's like, you need to leave now. She's like, well, that was rude, but you always were. And Tabitha's like, what? And as she walks by Selena, she like gives her a little wave and then walks out. And Barbara's like, who is that? She seems to know you. And that's when drunk Bruce steps in. Redhead's crazy, am I right? Redheads clicks it in Selena's mind that it's Ivy, so she tracks her down. And of course, Ivy knows she's been tracking her. So she goes up to her, she's like, I have this new power, scratches her hand, and she starts getting filled with her toxin. And you could just... The CGI effects on her really worked, but then the noises that they made, it sounded like stuff was just growing inside of her. And it was really kind of a sickening sound, too. It was a very, very effective scene to show what the toxin was doing to her. But ultimately, Ivy does have a cure, because for a second there I'm like, wait, did she just kill Selena? No, that's not possible. You can't kill Selena. She grows up to be Catwoman. I know what's going on here. You got something to cure her, right? She does. She has an antidote for the toxin, so Selena drinks it. And I did see the next episode. Couldn't say next week's because it's already happened. I just got to watch it. But I did see for the next episode that she infects Bruce as well, so I assume that he's also going to get a toxin to cure himself, or an antidote to cure himself from the toxin. But yeah, so it sounds like Ivy, she kind of recruits Selena a little bit. I love the look on Selena's face whenever she offers her a hand, because it's just this look of she's so sick of working for people. She's working with Barbara and Tabitha just because she feels like she has to have something to do, to keep herself doing stuff and I guess make a living, honestly. But it's not like she really wants to be running a club with them. It's not like she wants to be doing that stuff. She'd prefer to be doing stuff she enjoys. And then here comes Ivy, and now she's saying, hey, come with me, I'm going to help you. And she's just like, I'm so sick of being yanked around by people. Just the look on her face, you could tell. But yeah, Ivy pretty much says, we're going to make Gotham our bitch. So I don't know what her plan is, but I assume it has something to do with Bruce because of Wayne Enterprises dumping all that crap. Then the last thing to talk about... There's one more thing. What was it? Oh, Alfred's story. So, yeah, Alfred, he goes back into the diner after helping all the people out of the burning building, and everybody's just applauding him. Even the guys that tried to take his stuff earlier. He's just like, you ran into a burning building? I wouldn't do it. Good on you. You're a better man than me. So it was nice to see him getting a lot of respect. The girl at the diner, the waitress, she's been very kind of, sweet on him. And it's one of those things where... I don't know if she actually, was attracted to him or if it's just one of those things where it's like an older man. It's just like, oh, he's so nice. Like, oh my gosh, he's such a nice guy. He gave me a big tip, too. It was hard to really gauge how she felt about him or even how he felt about her because there was an age difference there. So, pretty strange. But then he goes outside with her. He's walking her back, and all of a sudden this guy pulls up in a car. He saw a bruise on her head, which... you can automatically assume abusive relationship. Sure enough, the guy pulls up in the truck. Hey, come on, what are you doing? We gotta go home. She's like, oh, Alfred was walking me home. And that's when Alfred makes the connection. This is the boyfriend. Throws him up against the truck, hits him, and his ring comes off when he hits him. And just pretty much tells him, don't hurt her again. She says, look, I can handle it, okay? I'm okay, I promise. He's like, you be safe. She gets in the car with him. I found that a little bit strange. I wanted to know more about their story, why... she was with him in the first place. Why was she staying with him if he was abusive to her? I wanted to know a bit more about that, but they don't really focus on it. The guy picks up the ring, and the next thing you know, the girl is murdered. And she's got a ring mark in her head. And so, of course, Alfred's being blamed for it. Gordon shows up, tells him, hey, just go down to the precinct, give your statement, he'll give his... and we'll work this thing out, I promise you. Because he trusts Alfred. He knows Alfred didn't do this, but at the same time, he realizes They need to do this by the book. But then Alfred disappears because somebody had to teach Bruce how to do it. Now we see Alfred is the one that can do it too. So he tracks the guy down in this bar, starts beating him up. His friends come over and start hitting him with pool cues. And it looks like the guy, he pulls out a knife and he's about to slit his throat. He's like, I'm just going to say it was self-defense. All of a sudden, Bat comes down on his shoulder, and then in steps Harvey to save the day. And I'm just like, yes, Harvey. So Harvey knocks the guys out, and Alfred kind of gives him the rundown. He's like, all right, I'll call it in. We'll sort this thing out. And so the cops come in to help out, get him arrested. And then Jim walks in, and they have this little scene between Jim and Harvey. And the thing is, I didn't really like Harvey for most of this season just because he was almost a little too combative with Jim. And I talked about this in previous reviews. But this scene really worked because you can tell he did stuff he wasn't proud of. That was obvious. He did stuff with Penguin. He helped Penguin whenever he really shouldn't have. And he probably felt guilty about it. And maybe some of that guilt was why he was so combative against Jim, why he was really frustrated with Jim, because he did see the bad side of it. But he just kind of tried to ignore it, but those feelings came out against Jim. So now that Jim is in the seat, he's the captain of the GCPD, because he got there using Sophia Falcone and everything Sophia did, and Harvey knows that, he's kind of like frustrated because Jim was preaching to him all this season about, you can't do this, you can't use Penguin to do all this stuff, you can't use Penguin to stay here, and he used Sophia, even if he didn't really want her to. It still was with Sophia's help that he managed to get to be captain. That's frustrating for him. And so the scene where Jim comes in and he's kind of like, you want me to be your priest? You want to confess something? Well, forget it. I don't want to do that. And hands him back the badge. He's like, so get out of here. It makes sense why he's so frustrated. It makes sense why he doesn't like Jim right now. So it was a very effective scene, and I really thought the emotion really came through in it. So overall, very good first episode. Now on to the next of these three. See you there. Now episode 13, A Beautiful Darkness. So thankfully this episode is a little bit more streamlined than the last one. There weren't as many stories going on. There's mainly two stories. First of all, we see the asylum, and then we also see Ivy and what's going on the outside. Now, with that being said, there still is a lot to talk about, so I'm going to try to get through it as quickly as possible because, similar to my Walking Dead review that I just did, 3 episodes of this show seems like it's going to be probably over 40 minutes. So I'm going to hit it as fast as possible. Basically, for Ivy's side of the story, we've got a few different things going on. The first one, we see Jim goes and gets Selena, trying to figure out what's going on with Ivy. Some more really great scenes between him and Barbara. In fact, Sophia is there, and that is a little bit of a story. Basically, all that happens there is Sophia says, look, we have an agreement. You do what I say, or else I tell everyone what happened. And Jim just says, nah, this is a bluff. If you take me down, I take you down, and I don't think you want to be taken down. So, yeah, I'm going to leave now. And then ultimately at the end, she calls him and is like, you were right. I don't want to be taken down. So I realize that there's more I can do to get to you aside from using the pig. And then is talking to Lee. Fantastic. So clearly that's going to be the avenue she uses to try to get to Jim. But like I said, really more fun between Jim and Barbara. Because as he's going to chase after Selena, she's like, oh, Jim, by the way, Selena, she went that way. I just saw her. You can go. I guess he's running after her. It's just quality Barbara stuff. But ultimately, he goes to get Selena to try to track down whoever this was. Finds out it's actually Ivy who's involved. And so it's like, all right, well, let's try to get to her. She goes after Lucius because, she finds out from Bruce that Lucius is the one that knows what's going on. And I'll talk about Bruce in just a second. So Jim goes there trying to talk to Lucius to find out what's going to happen next because he knows that he lied to him about it, not knowing what's going on with the Wayne Enterprises stuff. But ultimately, Ivy already got to him and took him. On top of that, she hypnotized everyone in the precinct. Another really fun moment is they go into Lucius's office, find out where he's going, and then the people walk in, Harper and a couple cops. She's like, boss, what you said about Ivy earlier, we don't really like that. You called her a psycho. And she's like, well, it's a term of endearment. And Selena's like, yeah, I love Ivy. She's like, really? How much? She's like, this much. I want to be her. And Jim looks at her and is like, you're not selling this. And then Harper's response, oh, and you thought you were? Just really funny stuff there. Ultimately, they managed to get away and track down Ivy. She is trying to get the Lazarus serum, which apparently I was not even aware that that was what they were doing, but apparently they took some of the stuff from the Lazarus pit and were trying to figure out what was going on, how it regenerates cells, how it does. And so that's the Project M. So ultimately she decides to use the Lazarus serum to, I guess, regenerate plants, which makes sense because that completely fits her character. She sees all these plants dead and dying. She wants to try to revive them. This serum is perfectly what would work. So she and Lucius get there. They take the serum. Jim shows up and she threatens to kill Lucius unless Jim drops his gun. But then she's like, I realize you're coming after me, gun or not. So if you try to chase after me, you won't be able to save Bruce. Puts the antidote to her toxin in Lucius's pocket and, runs away. Another funny scene. Lucius is like, hang on, Jim. Let's just wait for her to get away. Jim's like, come on, Lucius, don't make me hit you. He's like, go ahead and try. I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's like, since when? 9 classes. And so Jim just knocks him out, and he's like, Jim, what's going on? The serum, we gotta get the serum. And Jim's like, come on, we gotta save Bruce. So I will talk about Bruce now. Very interesting. He goes through this hallucinogen, which apparently anyone who gets scratched by Ivy, they go through a hallucination. Thankfully, she didn't scratch him as badly as she scratched the first guy because he just pretty much instantly died. She wanted it to take its time. In other words, she wanted him to survive because, we have to have Bruce Wayne survive. They did give a bit of a reason, which was pretty good. They didn't just say, "Oh, I'm just gonna take my time with you." She actually wanted him to suffer the most because he's the one in charge of Wayne Enterprises. So it does sort of make sense, but it also leads to, oh, you have a chance to save him now. But ultimately, the hallucinations he's going through is pretty crazy. First of all, Ra's al Ghul is there, but he's not Ra's al Ghul for some reason. He didn't answer to that name. He cuts Bruce's face off, so then he gets his face wrapped up, and he walks into this party being thrown by himself, goes up to him, he's like, hey, I'm Bruce Wayne, you stole my face. And then that Bruce Wayne pushes him up against the desk, and then the clothes just collapse into nothing. And now he is that Bruce Wayne. And so he's enjoying the party, and then everybody is there. Jim is there with a mustache. Don't know why, but it leads to a funny scene later where he's like, I saw you, Jim. You had a mustache. And he's just like, that's a dangerous toxin. This is just more funny stuff. But he's there with Barbara for some reason. Lee is there with Penguin. Harvey is there as the butler, but he's holding a chicken for some reason. Kind of just crazy stuff. And then everybody disappears. Alfred busts in as a secret agent and takes him away. He's just like, I brought you to him. And then all up there on top of the balcony, they're standing in the alleyway where Bruce's parents were killed, is Batman. And it's just like, no, this is where I was born. I don't think it was Kevin Conroy doing the voice. I do want to kind of look that up really fast to see if it was. It sounded close at some points, but it also didn't sound like him at some points as well. And I feel like, it would have been perfect time to go try to get him to do it. Let's see. No, I don't think so. Alright, so I am a little bit disappointed that they didn't go get Kevin Conroy to do the voice, because how perfect would that be to hear Batman's voice coming out of there, like, I am the Knight. It would be perfect. But they didn't do that. Ultimately, they end up in this cave, and he's just like, are you afraid? Well, you should be. And then bursts into a bunch of bats, and then that's whenever he wakes up from his hallucination. So we see, I think this is starting to give him a new sense of purpose, possibly. When he's talking to Jim at the end of the episode, he's like, I think I saw who I really am supposed to be. So I do think this is going to set him back down the right path, which, it is about time that he goes back down that right path. Because frankly, he's been going down this dark path of just partying, drinking, goofing off, doing whatever for a bit too long for my liking. Don't get me wrong, it does sort of make sense that he's doing this now because frankly he's tried everything else. Now why not try the party life? I do still think that he really went off on Alfred way too easily. It just seemed a little bit strange how all of a sudden he just hates Alfred for all of this. But the partying stuff, it makes sense that he would try to just have fun because why not? He tried everything else and nothing else has worked, so PTSD kicks in and he's just like, whatever, I'll drown my sorrows in drink and booze. So, but now it feels like this is the time where he's going to start walking back down the right path because this hallucination showed him what he should be. And it's one of those trips down the mental lane of stuff. It's just like, this was what your life could be if you were to continue where you're going. All these people, but they're not really your friends. They disappear in a moment's notice. And then this is what you should be. This is what, the fear you can instill in people. So with all that being said, on to the other side of things, which is stuff at the asylum. We see the Joker wants Penguin to start doing all of this, goofy stuff, make me laugh and all that stuff. Honestly, I mean, there's not a whole lot to talk about. Most of it is just the Joker trying to torture the Penguin and the Penguin, trying to fight back, not really giving into it. At one point, Ed visits him and, he's kind of messing with him a little bit. It's just like, I'm just here because I wanted to let you know that I've got friends, I've got a purpose, 2 things you don't have, so I'm doing better than you, and just wanted to gloat. And of course, Penguin's like, no, that can't be the only reason why you're here. You have to be here for a different reason. And so ultimately he unfolds this note and there's a riddle on the back of it. He's like, you're still in there. That's why you came to see me. You wanted to let me know you're still there. And so he gets hope that maybe he's going to help him escape the prison. Well, right as he gets that hope, he also realizes, I guess, how to stay alive with the Joker involved. First he tries to kill him by putting the one guy that just pees himself all the time, pretends to be him, and then when they bring him in, he pees himself, and then he tries to electrocute the Joker with that pee. Pretty strange, but it kind of fits with what he wants to see. He wants to see that type of craziness, but he's like, but it's just a little too late. You're just too boring to me now. And then ultimately he's just like, what if you're right? What if I am in a prison, but not by you? And all of a sudden starts doing a mime routine. It's just like, and he's just like, you really are crazy. He takes this little shiv thing and then goes to stab him and pretends like he's hitting something. And then he just go through this little routine and then he lets him inside and then starts beating him up. And he just starts busting out laughing, just like, see, that is what I wanted to see. And then he goes to kill him. He's like, one more time. And he gets hit. It's perfect. It's exactly what I want to see out of this character. And he's just bringing it to life. I love watching him whenever he's on screen. He's just so much fun and also pretty intimidating. But ultimately, he pretty much offers him a chance to escape with him. Penguin realizes you must be setting up some sort of plan. He's just like, bingo. So clearly he's got something that he's going to try to do. I don't know exactly what, but he wants Penguin involved because he's just that right type of crazy. But of course Penguin has already in his mind that Enigma's going to help him out of prison. So he turns him down and then sends him a letter. And that's pretty much where we leave off with there. The last scene that we end with is Ivy gets this new type of plant. And it's a plant with spores that she blows onto the people that left her the house. Whenever, didn't really leave her the house, but they left and then she took over the house. They come back, she blows the spores into their lungs, and then plants grow out from inside of them. So clearly she's got a new source of attack. I feel like it's going to be pretty deadly. I don't know. It looks like for the next episode, she's going to probably take her attack out on Gotham. I don't really know what to expect, though. It feels like there's just so many different moving pieces that I don't really know exactly where this season's going to go next. Who's going to be the main bad guy by the end of the season? Who's going to be the one they're trying to stop? Because it feels like they've gone through so many different things. With Professor Pig in the first half, Penguin, his whole Pax Penguina thing, Harvey dealing with that, Sophia stepping into town, Riddler coming back, Solomon Grundy helping him out. Now they've brought in Ivy and dealing with that. The Riddler is still returning, and now he's trying to take out Lee. Sophia is now targeting Lee as well. It just feels like there's so many different things going on. I don't really know what the main story for this season is. And that is probably the only complaint I'd have about it, is that there's so much stuff going on. At times it can get a little bit cluttered. Now, there are times whenever that works out perfectly, whenever things start to coincide and start to, come together, when these two different things, these two different plans all of a sudden coincide for one episode. That can be pretty fun. But in episodes like the last one, things can get pretty cluttered because you're focusing on so many different things. It can get a little bit confusing at times. And there are some times whenever stories don't get focused on for a couple episodes, and then you come back, you're like, oh yeah, that's a thing. So with all that being said, there's only one more episode to get to before I'm caught up, so I'll see you guys at it. See you there. And last up, episode 14, Reunion. And quite a fitting title because there were many reunions in this one. First of all, we have the reunion of Bruce and Alfred. It's just perfectly written. I've got no other words for it. I mean, it's just so good how well they did this because, of course, we start off the episode, Bruce goes to Alfred and is like, hey, I need your help. I'm glad we could talk like this. Please help me. And Alfred's just like, no. and it makes sense. He wants him to understand what he needs to do, what is deep inside of him. And that's something, it's very true. He doesn't quite understand his purpose yet. He saw that future that exists for him in Batman, but he doesn't quite know what it means to accept the darkness. And Alfred even tells him, after he gives a nice little speech at the Wayne thing, he tells him, part of your darkness is that in your heart you want to help people. And if you don't accept that darkness, you won't be able to help people. So it's almost like it kind of goes hand in hand, where that darkness, the rage, the anger, it also contributes to his desire to help others that are in need. And so that's kind of where Batman does exist in him, is that he wants to help those in need, but he does so by releasing that aggression inside of him. And of course, he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to give in to that, but at the same time, if he doesn't, he won't have the ability to help others. And so, of course, when the attack happens, he decides to don the mask again, tries to help Alfred, and Alfred's just like, no, you need to help everyone here. That's who you are. And so, of course, he helps some other people. We see our first, interaction between Jim and Batman, I guess is the best way to put it, even though he's not quite Batman yet. He sees him taking down a guy, and then he turns with the gun and says, no, wait, and then gets shot. Bulletproof vest, stops the bullet, but then he runs up, gets to the top of the roof. Jim gets up there, opens the door, disappeared. And we hear later he jumped to another fire escape. But of course, that's where it starts. The chase. Jim sees a random guy taking down somebody else, but he's not a cop, so I need to go chase after him. And then he disappears. The future, it's going to happen later too. But yeah, so we see a nice little moment at the end between Bruce and Alfred where, it's so good. I love the relationship that they've built between Bruce and Alfred, because from the very beginning, it's been one of the best things about this show is their connection. It's just so good. It's like a father and son mentor, and I love it. Whenever he's just like, I can drive you back to Gotham if you need to, and Alfred's just like, no, I'm already home. I'm just like, yes, you are, Alfred. Yes, you are. So anyway, it was good. It was emotional. It was touching. Fantastic. We get to Ivy's side of the story. We see her plan is to pretty much take down anyone who's hurt her in the past. The first person that she targets is Harvey because he shot her dad. So she goes to his bar, kills a bunch of people. Jim goes to Harvey and is like, look, I need your help. She's targeting us clearly, so we need to stop her. Harvey's like, nah, I got this. I got contacts. I'm going to go find her. And he ends up finding her, but then doesn't tell Jim because Ivy hypnotizes him to bring Jim to where they are. So Ivy then tells him, look, kill him and then kill yourself. Leaves. Jim manages to stop him. And then we do have a bit of a reconciliation near the end. Before Jim leaves to go stop Ivy at the Wayne thing, Harvey tells him, I've been blaming you for so long. I think it's time I started, blaming myself. And that's good to see, because while I did understand his reaction in the last episode, whenever Jim wanted to talk to him, he's just like, no, 2 episodes ago, I understood that reaction completely because, yeah, he saw the dark side of Jim and also saw that in himself as well. And so it was kind of like, he's been punishing himself internally for so long and releasing it as aggression towards Jim, that seeing that Jim didn't really do the same, kind of a hypocritical type of thing, it made sense that he was frustrated with Jim. But in this episode, he sort of realized, and I wonder maybe if it had something to do with what happened with Ivy, maybe that hallucination that he went through. Of course, I don't know if they hallucinate whenever she hypnotizes them or only whenever she cuts them. I don't know if they ever clarified that. Whatever the case, I guess he sort of realized in that moment that he is to blame, and he's been, releasing that aggression internally towards Jim, and so he's been blaming him for so long for that, and he sort of realizes that mistake. But by the end of the episode, though, Jim comes back to him and says, I haven't been completely honest either. Sophia's the one that hired the pig. I covered it up, and now I need your help because I'm going to take her down. So I wonder if we're going to start off the next episode with maybe Harvey is all like, pissed off, like, seriously, Jim, you didn't tell me this. You covered it up, and Jim sort of revealing, look, she didn't tell me until she killed the pig. It was at the end of it. I didn't. Because the way he said it, it made it sound like he knew the entire time they were trying to take down the pig that she had hired him. He didn't. He didn't realize until the very end of it when she, he only covered it up right then. So, I don't know. I kind of feel like that does need to be clarified to Harvey, or else he's probably going to be pissed. Like, you were talking down to me this whole time and you didn't say anything. But it is going to be interesting to see them decide to try to take down Sophia from here on out. And there's even, looking towards next week, the previews, there is a little bit of a scene between the two of them where it looks like she shoots him and then is like, beg me for your life. So clearly there's going to be a bit of a scuffle in the next one. It probably won't be the end of the fight between them, but it looks like Jim might be asking Penguin for help. So I'm really excited to see where that one's going. Then the final two stories. First of all, we're looking at Sophia and Lee. We can see, the kind of the mental battle going on between the two of them. Very, very interesting. And once again, Nigma, another great line from him. God, he's had some very good lines, toy maker / assassin. That is so Gotham. And then in this one, Lee is telling him the story. I can't remember how he put it. It was something along the lines of, so your ex-boyfriend's mafia gangster girlfriend, or kind of girlfriend lover, wants to take you down. Just like, it perfectly describes the situation, but it also, it's so crazy whenever you say it like that it perfectly fits the situation. But ultimately, Lee realizes that she doesn't have to give her the Narrows because she's asking for some crazy stuff. She wants like a majority of their food and stuff, and she's like, look, that'll kill people. Or not food, whatever, money. She's like, look, people are barely living right now. That would kill so many people. And she's like, well, you have to make sacrifices. Lee realizes that she probably wants to get to Jim because of what happened, because Nigma finds out about everything that happened between Sophia and Jim. And so she's like, look, I can give you some information on Jim. I can help you with that. And she's like, I already have what I need. I have a better idea. And then one of her guys pulls a gun out from under the table, shoots Lee's men, and then we realize that the black guy that she helped earlier, the one that had the coughing fit, apparently he helped plant some of these guns. And then the guys hold her down, and she's like, because you're my sister-in-law, I'll only take one hand, and then just smashes her hand to oblivion with a hammer. I'm just like, oh, that gotta hurt. So yeah, that's sort of where their story leaves off. I have to wonder if she's going to become involved, help Jim take Sophia down at any point. It kind of feels like she would just because of what happened between the two of them. But at the same time, I feel like she'd also be pissed at Jim for what happened. So, I don't know. I'm curious to see what's going to happen next with Lee, because she kind of feels like a wild card in this whole scenario. And the last thing has to do with Nigma. Once again, just throughout this entire episode, dealing with the Riddler, dealing with all this stuff. And at one point, the Riddler sort of not convinces him, but he plants the idea in his head that the only way to save Lee is to kill yourself. And he's just like, you know what, you're right. You are smarter than me. And so he puts his neck in a noose, he starts to walk down the stairs, And the Riddler's just like, no, no, you don't have to do this. Look, there's another way we can handle this without, Lee doesn't have to die. And so he commits himself to Arkham Asylum, and as he does, out walks Penguin. He's just like, you got my letter. I knew you'd understand. And she's like, what are you talking about? He's like, no, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the other you. And that's when the Riddler holds up the letter. He's like, read the first word of every sentence. And it's a message to the Riddler saying, bring Ed to Arkham Asylum so I can help free you. And so Penguin then starts to go, like, talking to him. She's like, I'm going to release you. I'm going to say the name I didn't want to say, but now to get me out of here, I'll do what it takes. He said, Riddler. And that's when Ed sort of stops, adjusts his glasses. He's just like, so shall we begin? So it looks like the Riddler's come back out in him. I find it very strange that all it takes is just mentioning the name, and he's just like, oh, make the switch. It feels like one of those like old fairy tales where don't say his or her name or else they'll come into being or whatever. Like Maleficent. I don't know if maybe that was just Kingdom Hearts, but there's like a moment in Kingdom Hearts where it's like, don't remember her name, and they remember her name and she comes back to life. It's like, what? It's kind of how it felt. It's like, don't say his name or else he'll come back out in me. Riddler. It's been good to be back out again. So whatever the case, it looks like they're probably going to escape, and, I don't know what to expect with them. They're, once again, feels like kind of like a wild card in the whole thing. But yeah, that's pretty much all for this episode. So all these moving pieces. I should probably talk about how it ends with Ivy. Don't know why I forgot about that. But yeah, so after she attacks the Wayne Enterprises thing, then Selena shows up at her apartment and she's like, I'm going to stop you now. And so they do have a little bit of a fight. It was kind of nice to see them reminisce about some of the old times, but it also feels different because Ivy does feel like a completely different person now. From the little Ivy Pepper and even older Ivy Pepper. She feels like a different character entirely. And so even though she does remember those old times, it's like she's remembering them as if she watched somebody else live them. And in my opinion, that does sort of lessen the impact of their friendship. So I will say I'm a little bit disappointed that it wasn't like, we didn't get to see any of the old Ivy come back out in her. But whatever the case, yeah, she does remember all that stuff, but it's more of a, she remembers them differently than Selena does. But Selena does manage to stop her by smashing the Lazarus serum, and there's a moment where she's about to kill her, but she has a knife up to her stomach. She's like, so what, are we just going to kill each other? And Selena just tosses the knife away. She's like, no, I don't want this. I didn't want this for us. I looked up to you. I thought you were great. And so then Ivy's just like, don't get in my way again, and then leaves. So that's pretty much how their story ends. So, it feels like there are several different things going on. Still not entirely sure what the story this season is going to come down to, whether it's going to be a fight between Jim and Sophia, whether it's just going to be this mad scuffle. We didn't see the Joker at all in this one, but we know he's planning to escape. Penguin and Riddler are going to try to escape together. Sophia's out there. Ivy's out there. It feels like it's just going to be madness by the end of the season, like all of these people possibly coming together. That would be very, very fun and interesting to see. But, overall, these 3 episodes, they're just... It captures more of what I want to see in a show like Gotham. The insanity, the madness, the fun. I love getting to see stuff like that, and they've done such a good job of capturing that this season. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what else they've got planned, how else this season's going to go, where it's going to go from here. I feel like there are many different paths they can travel, but overall, I'm just really excited for it. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts over these 3 episodes? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Gotham reviews. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.